Welcome back to the newest edition of Superpowered Pop. SPP, Super Powered Pop. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all the same at Superpowered Pop. You can go to superpoweredpop.com and, of course, be hanging out here on our YouTube channel. As you know, with Superpowered Pop's reemergence here in 2022, we, like many things that Dan Tortora Broadcast Media has done through the pandemic, are finding a way to bounce back through and to recreate, update, advance, excel, and progress. That's what it's all about, turning a negative into a positive. So Superpowered Pop is back for you here in 2022 with a fantastic family of contributors featuring Ross Turetsky, Larissa Fitzgibbons, and now my dude, Rico, is here with us, Enrico Mastroianni. And he is a giant Marvel Star Wars fan. He loves living in this world. So Enrico and I have gotten to do a lot, but we've never gotten to talk about stuff like this. So Enrico, how are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Absolutely. So you're a big Star Wars fan. When did it all start?
Oh gosh. I had to be probably 7 or 8 years old, I think. Getting over past the Empire Strikes Back into Return of the Jedi, that's when I really became the biggest biggest fan. That's when I really got turned on to it. I wasn't old enough to go to the original Star Wars. I was only probably 16, 18 months old. But my brother and sister were into the original Star Wars, and then that started to be shown on TV, and I got to watch that on TV at home, and then I got amped up for Return of the Jedi, and it was over after that. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was never into it. So nobody brought me to the movies about it. And so I was little, I was young when 1, 2, and 3 came out, when the Phantom Menace came out, and tried to catch a demographic and kids and whatnot. So I do remember watching that trilogy. But I can honestly say that the first time I became a true Star Wars fan was when episode 7 came out, and I genuinely became a fan because of who I call my lovely rolling soccer ball, and that's BB-8. So BB-8 actually made me a true Star Wars fan. A droid is what did it for me. And before people want to laugh about it, the Droid Depot down in Walt Disney World has a lot of y'all in there, so I know y'all are lying if you're saying that you don't like the droids.
Well, R2-D2 was my BB-8. That's the same thing. He was, the lovable character that was a droid that, for some reason, somehow, Luke understood him, and I never did, but it all made sense. So it was great.
Yeah. So, I mean, he did it, and I'll never forget when I went to go see it, because I saw it in IMAX in a huge screen in Syracuse, New York. And when you see him, he's in the beginning, the opening scene, and he just rolls in, and it's nighttime in the sands of Tatooine, right? And he rolls out, and you just see him look, and he looks right at you at the screen. And I think I saw the 3D version, so it was right there. And then that part where everybody got pumped, where he gets the when Poe comes over, and Poe Dameron comes over and gives him a thumbs up, and then he takes out a piece, and he lights up his lighter, and it looks like a thumbs up, and everybody's like, "Ah!" And I was like, "Shut up, everyone! That's my droid, because I liked him 2 minutes in, and you're liking him about an hour and 13 in."
Great.
So
great.
Yeah. So BB, definitely my favorite. But we're here to talk about Obi-Wan, and really to talk about Disney Plus in bringing us these news stories, right? The Mandalorian to Boba Fett, which I'm wearing very proudly, to Obi-Wan Kenobi. So as a Star Wars fan, what do you think? I mean, let's go back to the Disney side of things, right? Because Star Wars does 4, 5, and 6. But when they first came out, people that saw them in the moment thought they were 1, 2, and 3, because that's what makes sense, right? And then they did the prequel series of 1, 2, and 3, and then the original,
and that was mixed reviews for longtime fans like me. That was mixed reviews because there were different characters. It was a different feel in terms of graphics, special effects. It was like, how could this be so, before the original movies, but yet so modern, feeling. And so it was hard to really receive it. But now I think they've found a way to connect the dots.
Yeah.
And this series in particular, Obi-Wan, I think really, for me, connects a lot of dots.
Well, and I think what this does, and it's interesting that you say that, because the original trilogy that was 1, 2, and 3, and then when we did the prequel, and then it's like those are 1, 2, and 3. This is episode 4, 5, and 6, and then we got 7, 8, and 9 from Disney when they obviously made the deal with George Lucas and Lucasfilm. But the 1, 2, and 3 mixed review, I like what you said, because 1, 2, and 3 had mixed reviews for each of them, and should they have even been made. But now we're having the stories that come off of 1, 2, and 3 that bring us into the Mandalorian and Boba Fett and all of this stuff, like coming after, and Obi-Wan now being a part of this. So this is what I love about this, is that we're bridging the gap between series and whatnot. I'm convinced about something we'll talk about in a little bit when it comes to Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, because I have a whole plan that last year I came up with in my brain, and I'm like, I think this is what they're going to do. But to see kind of where things are, right? This 1, 2, and 3 brings us into Obi-Wan. Then we have 4, 5, and 6, and then that brings us into the Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and then we have 7, 8, and 9. So that's, if I'm correct, that's how the timeline goes, right?
Say it again. I missed you. Hold on. Say it again. You had 4, 5, 6.
So I said it's 1, 2, and 3 Obi-Wan, 4, 5, and 6 Mandalorian Boba Fett, 7, 8, 9. So I think how it goes.
So my interpretation of it is Boba Fett happens after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. So
right?
Yeah, 4, 5, and 6, and then Boba Fett.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And so Mandalorian is sometime after that as well. Like before Boba Fett, but after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. And so if we look at the Star Wars timeline right now, I think Star Wars fans are gonna want to murder me because I just said it wrong. But I'm so sorry. Don't get weird with me. So I think okay. So taking a look at this timeline right now, and seeing it here in the studio, this is okay. So this is what it is. Okay, now I get it. Okay, all right. So there's episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Solo takes place after episode 3, and then we have Rogue One is right by A New Hope. Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And okay, and this doesn't really have
Obi-Wan is basically after episode 3. What was episode 3? I forget the name of it now, with when Anakin becomes Darth Vader.
Yes, and so that was episode 3 ends up being in here. Sorry, I'm picking up all of this at the same time. So Revenge of the Sith.
It was Revenge of the Sith. That's it. So Obi-Wan is sometime after that, and probably before Rogue One. That's the way I would say it would go.
Yeah, because what I'm seeing, if they actually did this for us. All right, let's see here. So in the age, so there was the High Republic. In the Age of the Republic, we had episode 1, 2, and 3. And then Clone Wars took place after 2 into 3. Bad Batch took place after 3. And then, this has got the games and everything in it.
Yeah, that's all the cartoon stuff too.
And then we had Solo, and then we had Kenobi. And then Andor is going to take place after Kenobi. Then we had Star Wars Rebels. Then Rogue One, then we had A New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back.
Episode 4 was A New Hope, right?
Yep. So then we had A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, episode 5, episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and then we had, after Return of the Jedi, so I was correct. After Return of the Jedi, we have Mandalorian, the 2 seasons of Mandalorian with Boba Fett sandwiched within that.
Yeah.
And then we have The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. So, okay, so that's where that is. And then Droid Story and Visions and all these other things are supposed to be Rangers of the New Republic, all that stuff that's coming out. And Ahsoka will be within this Mandalorian area that's coming before The Force Awakens. So yes, so Kenobi that we're watching right now is after the first 3 episodes and after Solo, and then Mandalorian season 1 and 2 and Boba Fett are after Return of the Jedi. So what I originally said was correct. So okay, there we go. Look at me, Star Wars fans. I wasn't a fan from the beginning, not because I didn't want to be, not because I didn't care. I just didn't know about it. But see, I actually got the timeline right. As Mr. Star Wars sitting next to me is trying to. So look at, I taught Enrico something today. Maybe.
Well,
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't. I didn't.
that's okay. We'll go with that. It's your show.
Yeah. But the thing is that is the time. So Obi-Wan brings us back to right after, obviously, Revenge of the Sith, and then Mandalorian.
And that explains, and to me, so this is why I said connects the dots. Like to me, that explained a lot, because when you watch episode 4, A New Hope, right? And old Ben Kenobi, you mean old Ben Kenobi? He's just a drifter. He lives out in the, in the dunes, and like nobody knows anything about him. Well, why was he so unpopular? Why didn't he exist? Why wasn't there a big Jedi contingent like there was in the Phantom Menace, right? In the Phantom Menace, they have a round table of Jedi, right? All these different trainings going on all the time, the younglings, right? And then all of a sudden there's no Jedi, and old Ben Kenobi is this old guy that's going to teach Luke how to become a Jedi. And Luke happens to be the only one that exists. Well, that's why, because there was a slaughter, and I knew, like in A New Hope, they talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But you don't really understand that unless you've read the books, probably, you know what I mean? And if you did that, it probably is explained a little bit more in detail. But this to me it makes a lot more sense now. The Jedi hunt was really Anakin Skywalker on his rage, trying to find Obi-Wan. And so they were just killing Jedi like crazy, trying to get through to him. And he was, out of the fight for a long time, until a little princess found a way to his heart and brought him back into it. So it's a really cool story when you see that Princess Leia and he had a relationship prior to A New Hope. That's something that I never knew before.
Yeah, and the thing is it gives us, like, it takes the episodes 1, 2, and 3, like you were saying, like it takes these things that were not critically acclaimed, they were critically kind of defamed, and it makes them have meaning, because without 1, 2, and 3, we don't have this Kenobi continuation story. And what I think is funny is, people want to knock episode 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars. Yet at the end of it, when we see Hayden Christensen become Darth Vader, right? Anakin Skywalker become Darth Vader. And we see that final fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's just left there in the lava and whatnot. And then they preserve him. I think it's funny that the first 3 episodes end, and then people want to complain about all this stuff. And then all these years go by, over a decade goes by, and then they're getting ready for Obi-Wan Kenobi to come on Disney Plus. And there we have, our actors sitting there on the couch. And what I find to be really incredible is that when you have that moment after everything about all of the, this was ridiculous, we didn't need this trilogy, blah, blah, blah. After all of that, here's Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader sitting on a couch. And all these people are excited to hear Hayden talk, and they said, well, what's going to happen? And he's like, the fun's about to begin, and everyone's going buck wild. And I'm going, wait a minute. Hayden Christensen is only in Star Wars because of episode 1, 2, and 3. And now y'all are fans of him, just like somebody who looks a lot like Hayden Christensen, who is Andrew Garfield, And everybody hated that Spider-Man.
Right.
And now they're going balls to the wall, hoping that he gets a third movie. So
right.
I find it really funny that they knocked the first 3 episodes, and then everybody's like, "Oh my God, Hayden's back for Obi-Wan," and I was like, "Really, dude?" Like,
and I think the other part. And I remember, watch all of those episodes: Phantom Menace, the Clone, what was it? Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
all of those, watching them in the theater, there were certain elements that were bothersome to me, and one of them was Hayden Christensen's portrayal of young Anakin Skywalker, like when he was turning, towards end of Attack of the Clones into Revenge of the Sith, and it was just really hostile and negative, and there wasn't like a lot of I don't know, it kind of felt like the purpose of him flipping the switch and becoming so angry, it wasn't justifiable enough. You know what I mean? Like, obviously the death of his mother, like that is something that tipped him over the scales. But I feel like it was almost oversold.
Yeah.
That, he was turning into this dark creature, this dark Darth Vader, and it was like too obvious almost. There was not enough push to make that character be so angry. And I felt like that was one of the things that was hard to connect with.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back on it, I liked the Phantom Menace as a kid.
Yeah, me too.
Because I loved the pod racers.
Yeah. Oh, that was
I remember
awesome.
like when the video game came out, it's like all I wanted to do was ride in a pod racer. And I wanted to see it on the screen hover. And then I wanted to have my own pod racer because I wanted a hoverboard when I was watching Back to the Future. And then what I also realized in watching the Phantom Menace is that before Attack of the Clones, like you meet Jar Jar Binks, who to some people is like the most hated character in Star Wars lore.
Yeah.
And I thought Jar Jar was like funny and like cheerful.
Comic relief. Yeah. Comic relief.
When I watched Phantom Menace, like recently, like 3 weeks ago, and because now I'm watching them all through from like episode 1 now. When I watched Phantom Menace, I didn't get through all of it, and I went, "Yo, this dude is really friggin' annoying." Like Jar Jar, because he doesn't shut up at all.
You wonder what was the purpose of that. You know what I mean? Like what they probably could have accomplished a comic relief character in a different way, and. The other part that was peculiar in that was those type of creatures don't exist anywhere else in the other movies, so it's like, now you have all this whole species, Jar Jar species that, is in this movie for whatever purpose, but yet it doesn't carry on throughout the,
thank God.
Yeah, but it's like that's why it's even more overblown. Like, why would they do that? They could have picked, I don't know, any of the creatures that were in the in A New Hope, I can't think of the name of oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of the place. Where Obi-Wan and Han Solo were
what are you thinking of?
Oh my gosh, the bar. What's the bar? The cantina.
Oga's?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't even think of the name. I don't know why. But one of those creatures from the cantina, they could have had some kind of a connection to that. That would have made more sense.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I just didn't realize how annoying he was.
Right.
Because he talked like
all the time.
And more than the main characters.
Yeah.
Mr. Jaja really tired. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, what's the button of Forza? And I'm like, why? Why are you here? But then I saw a really deep dive, and it was on YouTube that he's like a Sith Lord, that Jar Jar actually is like evil.
What?
And there's like trying to find all these moments where like, was he trying to do? I don't know. It was like pretty crazy, but I got like
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I got like really deep into. I went down a Star Wars rabbit hole, and I didn't come out for a couple weeks. But I went to the underworld where Jar Jar was hanging out. But Yeah, I mean, I still remember, it's weird. Attack of the Clones, the only thing I remember is the giant fight and how like Jar Jar's race was under the dome. So like I remember like Phantom Menace going into Attack of the Clones and just the fight sequences, I guess, of those. But Revenge of the Sith was the most memorable one, and it was because of a grown Anakin. And but again, I mean, this really, like you said, it brings something to it to watch Obi-Wan and to see that not only were all these Jedi slaughtered, they were children,
Right.
they were training, they were left in the, I mean, the Jedi, the adult Jedi tried to save them, but that not only were they getting brutally murdered, they were children getting brutally murdered, and it was at the hands of Anakin.
Right.
That
Right.
Anakin was murdering his brothers and sisters of the Jedi Order because he was, doing the bidding of the Sith. And seeing that and like realizing the story in Obi-Wan of the third sister, that she was the only survivor, she thinks, of this attack.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty crazy too.
Well, it's funny because my family and I were, why are they calling her third sister? What's the,
There's
where's
obviously
that?
a significant, yeah, there's
Right.
significant.
What's the significance to that? But then, when you see the backstory with the younglings and stuff, it's like, oh wow, yeah, that makes a little bit of sense. Um, I think the other part of it too, with those first three movies
Yeah.
and finding a way to connect them to this, I thought it was really powerful in Obi-Wan series how they were doing the flashbacks.
Yeah.
And it was Obi-Wan was visualizing his sparring with Anakin, and Anakin was visualizing his sparring with Obi-Wan, and it was connecting why this rivalry was so real for them, and what it was all coming to turn, where it was going to find its head coming to a point.
And with us both being like basketball players growing up and you being a coach, can we get one of those tanks that Boba Fett and Darth Vader
The
and
water tank.
Obi-Wan are in,
Yeah.
where like you spend a few hours in there and your body
All of a sudden,
mysteriously
you're good.
heals in this
Yeah.
liquid? Like, that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
I probably would have recovered from sprained ankles a lot quicker, I'm sure.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, like, they need to make one for like broken hearts. If they could make like a crazy ex-girlfriend tank, that would have been fantastic.
Oh man.
You
Make all
know,
the pain go away.
you just, all the memories of them, all of like the weird, moments, you just lose all of that. Like it all just go. And I'm going to tell you something really weird because you brought it up. And so I blame you for this. And I also blame God because God is a mysteriously funny character. But you said that you liked it in the Obi-Wan series that we're seeing flashbacks from Obi-Wan to the fight with Darth Vader and Darth Vader going back to the fight with Obi-Wan. Well, in the last few nights, like 3 nights in a row, like in episode 1, 2, and 3, I dreamt of an ex-girlfriend that was horrible. And each night was like a different ex. And I was like getting married to them, or I was like with them longer. And I was in the dream going like, why am I here? So I think that I was like replaying my episodes of Turmoil because Obi-Wan was also doing the same thing.
Yeah, you're caught in the moment there. That's pretty powerful.
I got to tell you something though. If Darth Vader came up to me with limbs missing and a body burned and he was breathing heavily, I would have gladly have dated him more than what I dated.
Yeah.
So we're, obviously, so Obi-Wan gives credence, it gives weight, it gives like the Star Wars bitter fans of episode 1, 2, and 3, like, why did you make these? It gives us a new hope, pun intended, by bringing us into a new hope. What I love about this series is I never ever thought in my life I would see little young Princess Leia and young Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And now, like I mean, you've been a fan forever, so you can speak to
Can I
this
tell
more.
you
Yeah,
real quick, interrupt you with a proud dad moment?
Yeah.
So about my son, right? 5-year-old Marco. He's like,
I love how you like we've been really close friends for almost a decade, and you just said, hey, so like, like my son.
Well, for the
like,
viewers who may not know, just
no,
for
but
the
I think no, but I think it's funny that you said to me, my son Marco, right? Yeah, I think I do.
So proud, super proud dad moment, right? Yeah. The scene where third sister is coming to hunt Luke. Yeah. Okay. And there was, I forget if he was sleeping. I think he was sleeping at the moment or something, or just like silent at the farm. Yeah. And before any conversation or any indication that was him, Marco yells over to me, "That's Luke Skywalker, right, Daddy?" I'm like, whoa. and Jamie looks at me and she goes, "Wow, aren't you pretty proud right now?" I said, "You have no idea." Like that is just awesome. When we went to Disney and we went to the Star Wars, we got custom made lightsabers. So, they've been out over the last couple of weeks now that we're watching Obi-Wan. He's had them out, like waving them around. So it's been pretty cool.
Did you get the custom made ones at like the Star Tours area, or did you get the ones like you don't know where the building is and it's a secret building on Batuu? It's a secret entrance on Batuu, and like you have to have a reservation to go in there, and it's like $200 per lightsaber.
No. Star Tours, yeah. But you custom make it, like you pick
you make it. Like this is what I don't understand. There's like 3 versions of it, right?
Okay.
There's like at Disney, there's the Walt Disney World, you custom make them, and they've been there like that for like over 10 years. And so like you go and you make them and whatnot, and they're by Star Tours before there was even a Galaxy's Edge. Right. And then there's the ones you can buy in the box that are like authentic. And then there are the ones now that you can go to Batuu and you can make your own. And it's like when you go into the store, and as you're heading over to Smuggler's Run, when you're on like the level up from that, and the food place is right here, and to the right you have that store where the door slides open and shut, and you can go in there and get the Jedi holocron and the Sith holocron and all that stuff. If you go down the steps from that store, there's this like thing that looks like just like a gray wall, and there's people standing there. And beyond that, because you're on Batuu and you can't let anybody know, and this entire, planet that we're immersed in is like being in a Star Wars movie, being in the world, right. They can't let you know where the lightsabers are being made. So you don't see them, and you can never see them unless you have an appointment. But what I heard when it first opened was that you could only go in there if you had already purchased. So you had to literally say to them, like, here's my $200. Now I'm going to go make my lightsaber.
That was not where we went, just so you know.
Yeah. I haven't been in there, but like you can.
That would be really cool to see though.
No. And when you go into the store, you can buy each of like these, notable characters through Star Wars history. You can buy like the base of each of their lightsabers. So you can buy those, but I'm thinking if the lightsaber is $200 and you have all these different bases that are like $195 and they're all different prices, like how does this all work out? But those, the Kyber crystals that you can put in the holocrons, you can also put those in the lightsaber. So if you buy a green one, it's green. If you buy a yellow one, it turns it yellow. So, I mean, it's cool. I don't know if it's like $210 cool.
Right.
Like if I'm spending over $200,
and especially for a 5-year-old, like I wasn't gonna, you know what I mean? I think they were like $30 or $40 each.
I'm gonna be real with the world here. If I'm spending over $200 for a lightsaber, then it needs to be an actual real lightsaber where it's an actually real opportunity for light to cut through.
Where you push a button and it comes out. Yeah.
Like you press a button.
Yeah.
And there's and that light is an actual sword.
It's a beam.
And I can take that beam and I can like put it against my wall and cause a giant like gaping crack in my wall. Like if I'm buying a lightsaber, I want the light beam to be an actual violent weapon.
I mean, who wouldn't really,
Like that's how I would weed whack.
Yeah,
like think about coming to my neighborhood and at night you just hear
yeah.
I'd be out there every day because I don't like weed whacking. But if I had a lightsaber, then maybe I would.
That's awesome.
So, so when we look at Kenobi and like you were talking, like we were talking about young Leia and young Skywalker, I never, it's leave it up to Disney to constantly take something and reinvent it. And I just did an episode of Dan on Disney, which is another show that we do here in Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. And it was about the movie Lightyear.
Yeah.
And
which we went to see for Father's Day, by the way.
did you like it?
I did. I thought it was a little underwhelming. A little underwhelming.
I did. Whenever somebody's, you know what? This is a universal thing. No matter what the language is, no matter who the person is, if you ask a question and there's an inflection in their immediate reaction of syllables, it wasn't that good. I did.
Well, I was expecting, I don't know. I guess I was expecting
Tim Allen. Hi.
Yeah. Well, and like, I don't know. There were some holes in the plot to me. I think. Can
I tell you what I did in the movie?
Go ahead. What?
I'm a movie guy.
Yeah.
I've worked on screenwriting. That I will work on a Spider-Man film.
Yeah.
And got to be an extra in one. I fell asleep in the middle of Lightyear. I don't know how many light years I was asleep, but I woke up and I was like, and the first thought on my mind when I woke up was, do I have any pretzel bites left? So, like, yeah, it
accelerated too fast. I think like, they were trying to really hammer home the point that he was losing time.
Yeah, it was a bigger message. I got the message was great.
Right.
But it was like, here's the intro to the movie, and here's like the 972 of the same action. Yeah. And I felt like they could have made that movie in 15 minutes.
Right.
Like
there could have been more substance. There could have been more substance to it.
There was nothing to, and the thing about it is like, are we back on Earth?
Yeah.
How do the Buzz Lightyear toys come to be in existence on Earth? Like,
right.
Where's the connection here? Does he have like a Neil Armstrong type of relationship with Earth?
I think they put the disclaimer on the screen originally when you start the movie that this was a movie that Andy was watching. And so it was all fictitious. There was no, and that's how the toy came to be. So yeah, I get it, but yeah, I was a little underwhelmed, honestly. But Marco liked it, so I'm for it,
Yeah, I took it from the world of like, and I came in a couple minutes after it started, but I took it from the world of like this, like Buzz, the toy was made off of a real person in this fake world.
That's the thing. It really wasn't. That's if you came in a little late, you missed that. On the opening screen, it tells you that this was a movie that was played when Andy was a child, and then the toy was produced based on this movie. So
if they do it that way, then it almost begs the question, like if this was a movie that Andy watched and this is all based on something he saw, then what if they turn around and told us the Toy Story 1, 2, 3, and 4 never happened and it was his imagination?
It's possible, I guess.
Bang. So like,
possible. Well, to put that in perspective, so I know we're getting way off tangent, but the other night Marco was trying to sift through some of his toys.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, this bag here, I'm going to give to, to somebody else. This one here, this goes in the attic, and these ones here, I have to save for when I go to college.
That was awesome.
I said, oh, Marco, were you watching a little bit of Toy Story, buddy? Is that what this is all from? He's like, yes, Daddy, I have to have some toys for when I go to college. I said, don't worry, you'll have a lot of toys in college.
He's such a grown, small
he's so thoughtful. Yeah, he's so thoughtful.
And I got something that you said to me before we did this broadcast, which is that like he met you, we were on the phone, he met you when you like pulled in the driveway at night, he had a garbage bag and he was like, Daddy, like I've outgrown these toys. I don't need these anymore.
That was the night.
And like what kid does that? Normally kids like hoard them.
Away your toys. Yeah, no, I would never do that.
He was like, Daddy, I don't need these anymore. And you're like, well, they might be worth money on eBay.
Well,
put them back in the house. Like,
you want to know what the funniest thing is? I went through I'm like, well, what toys are you getting rid of? And he pulls out, he had one of his giant size Hulk toys. I said, what are you doing? You can't get rid of Hulk. He's like, but Daddy, I already have one. I said, I don't care. Take it to Nani's house, my mother's house. I said, you can play with it when you go there. Okay, that's a good idea. So he took some toys. I said, you could take 5 toys and bring them to your grandmother's house and we'll leave them there for you. So AKA,
you can't get rid of this Hulk because Daddy wants it. So
you are not getting rid of that. No, that is not happening. Yeah.
See, but me as a dad, I'd be like, I bought all of these toys. So unless I sell them, they're staying here. Like,
technically, they belong to me. Yes.
Yeah. Like I bought these toys. Now, because it's like something like Joe Coy, the comedian, he said it. And I feel the same way. It's like, I didn't buy these for you. I bought these for us.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So back to Star Wars, Obi-Wan. And what I thought was cool about this before I started watching the series is that Ewan McGregor was doing an interview and he said that he had to find the accent, that like he had to, because it had been so many years, he had to retrain himself to do the Obi-Wan Kenobi that he brought to life. And you'd think like he's the actor that did it, so obviously he could just bring it up, but he had to like retrain himself to become Obi-Wan, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, no, he did a great job. I mean, I think, like I said, not having really known the backstory or like what happened after Revenge of the Sith, it could have gone a lot of ways. And I know that this was originally going to be a movie. It was going to be a full feature movie. And I thought it was interesting that, if you break it down, it was the length of a movie or a little bit longer even. But it touched on a lot of things. The one thing that I think they left open that I'm a little bit confused or concerned about is the fate of third sister. What happens to her, because he left her and said, the beauty of it is you can do whatever you want now. You can be free. But like, she doesn't show up in anything else in the future. So whatever happened to her, right? Not that it's that critical, but she was one of the main characters, obviously, throughout the whole thing.
But I mean, you don't bring like people in to not bring them in and have a purpose. So
right.
I mean, for goodness sakes, Jar Jar had 32 minutes of speak time. So, and please don't track me, Star Wars fans, that I was being facetious. I was saying, like, if you gave him over a half an hour of speaking, then third sister deserves something. But I mean, when they bring these characters in, there has to be something to it. There has to be something. Why is she called third sister? What does it mean? So this is going to be answered in Obi-Wan season 2, or to be answered in something. But I want to jump to the Mandalorian, and I want to jump to Boba Fett because I have a theory. So because these are both made after Return of the Jedi episode 6, that brings us to the world of 7, 8, 9, right? Well, when we meet Grogu, he's after episode 6 and he's a baby, right? And they say, I mean, they're little and they say, oh, he could be 50 years old and be tiny, whatever. But we know that they live for a long time. Just go with me on this for a second. In the story of Grogu, because they've been planting these seeds with him. So you have Yoda, who was a Jedi, and you have Darth Vader, who obviously is on the dark side. So you have the light and you have the dark.
But he's redeemed now at that point.
Right.
Go ahead.
So Grogu, in my opinion, because of how they like did this with the Mandalorian, Ahsoka said, like, we can't train him. And he's like, why? And she's like, he's too attached to you. And so you can't train him because, the emotion side of things could turn him to the dark side. I believe that Mandalorian came in to set up the new trilogy that'll come after 7, 8, 9, where I believe we're going to see the story of Grogu grow as a Jedi, learn turn to the dark side, and we'll see what it's like to see a dark side Yoda, so to speak. We'll see this extremely strong Jedi that could be stronger than Yoda, we'll see, and see him turn to the dark side and then have to fight up against the light and fight against the good. So I think we see him training, we see him grow. He turns to the dark side. In the second movie, it's dark side fighting. And then the Mandalorian, because that's his father, is the flip of the Luke, I am your father, of dark side to light. And the Mandalorian ends up turning Grogu back to the light. And in the third part of the trilogy, Grogu becomes good.
Well, a good theory. I mean, but then you also have after that Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And no sign of Grogu in that.
No,
right?
because I think what they're setting up is that Grogu is going to be after that. I think he's going to be after 7, 8, and 9 because I mean, they can live for such a long time and he's like a babyish.
Hundreds of years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're setting up Grogu for episode 10.
Okay.
And I think he could potentially become the main villain of the next trilogy, or one of the main villains.
Would be interesting.
Because what's the point of the backstory? And what's the point of this? Like, it's emotion. And think about it. It's like they said, we can't train him because of his emotion. He's too attached to you. We have to keep him away from you. Then they say to him, you can either become a Jedi or you can go leave and save the Mandalorian. He decides to leave and go save the Mandalorian, but he still has these powers. And then Ahsoka is going to get her own show. So there's more to dive into here.
Well, I guess my concern with that would be, like, we see Luke in 7, 8, and 9. Yeah. And Luke is with Grogu in, Mandalorian. And, where's Grogu during that time with Luke? Like, why isn't he around at
Maybe
that
that's
point?
one of the reasons why Luke went into hiding.
Maybe, could be.
And think about this. Think about the turmoil.
But that's not what he said, right? Like, he said he went into hiding because of what happened with Ben, with Leia and Solo's son. And
but you look at the fact of, just think about, so maybe so they lose touch, right? It's a giant universe. But right. let's say this. If Luke is the one that trains him and he turns to the dark side, Luke was trained by Yoda, then he trains Grogu, so it reverses. Luke was good, but could have almost been bad. Grogu was good and did turn bad. And now with Darth being Luke's father, now Luke had some of that darkness in him and almost went that way and in that direction. So now Luke has to deal with the turmoil of, my father was dark. I could have gone either way. I fought with both. I stayed good, but then I trained Grogu, who became bad. So in my world, I actually am now looking at the Jedi that I trained, and now he's having this he's trying to make a course correction, and he's having this turmoil, this inner turmoil that Obi-Wan had. So think about Obi-Wan to Darth to Luke, and then Luke to Grogu. So we see good to evil to good, and then back to evil would follow the timeline. There's no reason why Grogu's here unless he's coming in.
Well, if it's true,
silver screen thing.
If it's true, it's a pretty awful Disney trick, because all these kids are in love with Grogu, and
he's gonna get nasty.
Yeah, that'll be a really, really tricky plot twist. So,
listen, all I'm saying is Dark Yoda. Like, right. Don't tell me you don't see it.
No, you're right. Could be.
So, I mean, that's something that I'm excited about, something that I'm excited to see. I do want to, before we jump out of here, just touch a little bit here, because we're talking about the Disney Plus series, Mandalorian and Boba Fett. What were your thoughts about them? They obviously crossed each other, and then we got to see Mando come back in Boba Fett, which I thought was like the buddy cop team up. I love that team up. Like, seeing Mando and seeing Boba Fett, I never knew how bad I wanted that until I saw it.
Yeah, no, I really didn't expect that, and I thought it was really cool that they did that. It connected that one for me too, right?
Yeah.
But the Boba Fett series, I thought was really cool. I was captivated by that. I was like, Obi-Wan to me is the best one so far. But Boba Fett was really, really good. Like Mandalorian, I think I told you I was really into it at the start, and I was, life happens. It's hard to watch. And then, if the kids don't want to sit and watch it, then it's hard to put it on the TV. So,
Yeah.
I couldn't get through it all consistently. It was in pieces. So it was hard for me to really get invested in that as much. But, as Boba Fett was starting to come out, I started to get back into watching Mandalorian again, getting caught up with that. And I think they're both really cool series.
Yeah, I thought I think, honestly, looking at all of them, I think Boba Fett is my favorite series of Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, and Mandalorian. I would say Mandalorian, I probably lean a little bit there, but Boba Fett, it was more action. Just, I mean, the way things started out, I mean, the series started out with how is he not dead yet?
Right.
And
That's really, like, I would have never imagined that.
and there's this like redemption and this character that looks like you and me, looks like
Mhm.
a human being here, and he's almost like superhuman in his story, and
The
seeing it.
suffrage he goes through. I mean, the
Yeah,
pain, and I mean, it's crazy, and how he embraces the lifestyle, right? And and then to have his whole village be devastated, yeah, it's enough to make a guy go wild.
yeah, and the thing that I really really liked about the series was that when we got to see Cad Bane in it, and Cad Bane comes to us, from other pieces of it, but we had never seen. And this is one of the things. So he, in Star Wars, the Clone Wars, this is a character that like other characters through Disney Plus, like Ahsoka, we had only seen them in a character animated form. We had
Mm.
never seen them in live action. So seeing Ahsoka in live action and seeing Cad Bane in live action, I thought these were really cool. Also seeing Cad Bane, I have to say, he made me think of, like, in the movie Cowboys and Aliens. If the Cowboys and the Aliens bonded, we would have gotten him. Like, he was the baby
Mm.
of that movie.
Yeah.
So I thought, I don't know, I thought, like, seeing characters that you never thought you would see not drawn. I thought that was really cool to see him and his villainry. And then, I mean, I think Ahsoka, I'm a big fan of Rosario Dawson in general. And
Sure.
I think Ahsoka was done so well. And I love the fact that she's getting her own series.
Mhm. Well, and I think what's cool about Boba Fett too is, like, again, you think about, this is predating Force Awakens, correct? That's what we said.
Yes.
So when you get to Force Awakens, again, the galaxy is in turmoil again, right? And there's all these different allegiances, and there's always going to be, the First Order, the Empire. I mean, all these different evil sources, but yet, you're always going to have, these little pockets of places where you can run and hide to, and the Empire can't touch you there. And now, you're seeing how that all comes into play. And then the Force Awakens on Tatooine, and why is Rey in this situation? Well, here you go. This is one of those reasons. It's chaos in the galaxy.
Yeah, and I love how I didn't know how I was going to take, these additional movies, right? Because, like, Solo, I thought was good, but people liked Rogue One more than Solo.
Rogue One was awesome to me. That was the best. I loved
I
it.
I watched Rogue One sitting in an airport for the second time. When I saw it in theaters, no. When I watched it a second time, I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot more. And I liked Solo when I saw Solo, but I'm also, again, these stories coming into the timeline, when they bring back characters we never thought we'd see again. Shout
Right.
out to Ray Park, the actor that plays Darth Maul, my favorite villain of Star Wars history. Getting to, like, watching Solo, I got to see Darth Maul even for a second. I mean, I got to see him, like, do his thing. It wasn't like a quick cameo. And
Mhm.
so I thought, like, that was really cool for me. And ultimately, going through these stories and seeing different things that are showing up,
Yeah.
think about what Disney Plus is doing with The Mandalorian, we are getting to know about the bounty hunters more, right? We're getting to know about the Mandalorians, because if you're a big Star Wars fan and you go to Comic Cons and conventions and whatnot, there's like a bunch of different Mandalorian factions. And I knew about them before I knew about the Mandalorian, and realizing all this and like the suit of armor and how they pretty much what they wear shows, how valuable they are in the galaxy. So I thought that that was cool. And then seeing Grogu, and who I think is going to become like the evil Yoda for a time, that story is really interesting to me. I love his relationship. He takes his helmet off, which is totally against, what they're supposed to do and who they are. And this is the way now
This is
has
the way.
such a big meaning. And then you look at Boba Fett, and Boba Fett brings you into this world where you get to know a character that if we never had this show, he kind of came and gone in Star Wars history. And he was a background role, and now he's more of a premier role. And then Obi-Wan somehow finds a way to tell us more about Obi-Wan, more about Darth Vader, more about Luke, more about Leia. And in what world did we think after all these years and over 2 decades that we were going to watch a Disney Plus show in 2022 that was going to give us more knowledge of the characters that we've known from literally the first movie, A New Hope?
What's underrated is what Obi-Wan told us about Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. Honestly, that's what's underrated, because really, I mean, Uncle Owen
is kind of a dick.
He's a grumpy old man. I mean, when you see him in Star Wars, grumpy, old man who doesn't want to see Luke. He needs Luke for the farm, so he doesn't want to let him go. And it's like, he's got all these different, that there's some endearing quality, but it's hard to really like the guy, right?
It's kind of like the girl that you date whose family is from like a small town, where you're like, we want to get married. And it's like, we need her to come home and work on the farm. And you're
exactly,
like, but I love
right.
her. And it's like, but you know what, if she's going to be with you, you're a little townie and she's a farm girl. And
right.
It's like, it really does feel like that, where it's like, that's Uncle Owen. It's like, well, he could be a Jedi. He's strong in the Force. Well, I need him on the farm. It's just a really weird.
But this put it in perspective that, how they really cared for Luke. You know what I mean? And that he really was their child. And even though he wasn't, biologically their child, they raised him that way.
Yeah.
They sacrificed so much for him. And Obi-Wan at the end, when he says, I've come to terms with it, like, you're exactly what Luke needs. And, when the time is right, I'll be here, and, I'll wait and see how it goes. Like, just having faith in that eventually it's going to work out, that he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It was just cool to see that connection too. Like, I mean, who would ever thought Aunt Beru would pick up a rifle and start shooting at somebody? in A New Hope, she's the sweetest lady in the world.
But that's what, listen, I know that's what family does. When you said that, I'm like, I pictured my grandmother, my mom. I was like, when you come from and you and I both have Italian background, I'm like, they're not violent ever, but I could see my mom and my grandma picking up a rifle and being like, no, you leave Daniel alone.
Yeah, no, it was cool. Like I said, just connected a lot of dots.
Yeah, and I think what, the new trilogy did for us, that started with The Force Awakens, is it showed that there's a lot of people that are Force sensitive, and you don't just have to come from a lineage of it. And so, when we see in that trilogy the kid at the end who's sweeping and he goes like this, and then you see the broomstick move. And so, this whole, I mean, you think about, you're watching Obi-Wan and it's a massacre of every Jedi. They're trying to kill every Jedi in the galaxy. And then you go fast forward all the way to the newest trilogy of 7, 8, 9. And we know that there's still Force sensitive people. And no matter how much you try, tear down a temple and take out the Jedi, that there will always be somebody who is strong in the Force, so to speak. Which
Metachlorian level.
What'd you say? Has
a high metachlorian level.
Yeah, high metachlorian level, and the highest they've ever seen, when we talk about that. But I think it's really, really cool too. And going back to that, the Phantom Menace, and that was the line from Ewan McGregor in that, is it like, look at his midichlorian level. So, I think that Obi-Wan, to me, first and foremost, I love the fact that it brought us from the end. Like it was like literally them having PTSD of the fight. And so like bringing us to the end of that fight and getting to see that, I think is really, really awesome. And I thought the series was done well. I have to give Obi-Wan credit that, like you said, I mean, this looked like a movie. It felt like a movie. Nothing about, and this is no disrespect to TV. What you expect out of TV, and I know TV has come leaps and bounds, whatever, but this was probably on a short list of maybe in the top 2 things I've watched as a series on television that I looked at it and thought, this had to cost millions of dollars. Like it was beautifully done. And like I said, I mean, and this is something you and I talked about off the air. So kind of a quick note to this. We see Luke and Leia as kids. We know they're fine. Like we know they're going to be okay. Yes. We know they're in the next 2 trilogies, but yet you and I are sitting here like, are they going to die?
So nervous.
Like how do Lucasfilm and Disney get us to worry about characters that we know for a fact are never going to die in this series? And yet they still got us to get Luke like on the edge of our seat.
Off the cliff, and like she's carrying him and he looks like dead, and she lays him down, and like for a half, it felt like a half a minute, but it was probably like 10 seconds. You just like what happened? Are they going to, is Obi-Wan going to bring him back to life? Like, and then he breathes and you're like, oh, good. Everything's fine.
And I told you that about Leia. I'm like, why do I think she's going to die? This is ridiculous.
I know. Yeah. No, there were a lot of close encounters there. So it was good. The way that they presented it, the way that they produced it, it was really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I thought Obi-Wan was a fantastic series, and this has been a fantastic debut of Enrico Mastroianni. You have a final note here, sir?
No, I was just going to say, seeing what Obi-Wan went through in this series, it validates why he died the way he did. You know what I mean? Because he had realized at that point, he had come full circle. The best power that he could be to the Force, or the best way that he could help Luke, was to become the spiritual presence that he was. And this I think really puts that in perspective for me. So
well, let me throw this to you. After seeing Obi-Wan in this series help out young Princess Leia, all I can think about is somehow, some way, there's an even deeper meaning to help me, Obi-Wan. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Yeah.
Like seeing that all those years ago.
The end, right? Didn't he say to her, when you feel like, all hope is lost, or when you need something, and you need me, I'll be there, so.
And it's just like, you think about it, and it's like their relationship with her as a little girl. And seriously, watching the series, all I've been able to think the last couple of weeks is, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Because as a grown woman, she knew the one that I trust the most is the one that saved me. Like, think about that bond, that she didn't trust him when she met him, and then she built that trust with him through what we saw in Obi-Wan Kenobi's series here. And in seeing that trust getting built, that years and years later down the road, when she is up against a wall and she thinks, who do I call? She calls Obi-Wan and says, you're my only hope. And you go back to that scene and that statement, which is one of the biggest statements and most notable statements, not in Star Wars, but in all of movie history. And you realize that she said that because of what he did for her as a kid. And think about that. She said that because of what he did for her as a kid, but we didn't know that until decades later. So how incredibly smart are Disney and Lucasfilm to take that moment, go all the way back here, all this time later, not even knowing this was ever going to happen, or Disney was even going to own Star Wars, and to say, hey guys, that quote that you know so well, this is why she had so much faith in him.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me. That's mind blowing.
Disney again, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, in his dialogue with her at the end, saying how, for both of our sake and safety, we have to pretend we don't know each other. Like kind of, like, let's not reveal that we're friends and that we know who we are. And, her broadcast, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." She's like, "You fought for my father in the Clone Wars." And, not, "Hey, remember when you saved my life that time and you helped me escape kidnapping?" Like, she doesn't bring that up. It's more generic and formal. And now this makes sense somehow.
Yeah. So retroactively, Disney told a perfectly tailored story to a time that they had no connection to decades ago, before they had any rights to make anything. And now you thread the needle and you hear, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." And you're like, she's trusted him since she was a kid.
Yeah.
Like 10
years old.
Yeah. And that deep rooted bond is like so incredible. And you're like, can anybody besides Disney do this? Like, it's just crazy to me to see something like that. So a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of amazing things. Enrico, this has been Enrico's debut.
Awesome.
Enrico Mastroianni here with us on Superpowered Pop. He is going to be one of our monthly contributors, along with Larissa Fitzgibbons and Ross Turetsky, and of course myself, Dan Tortora, your proud host of Superpowered Pop. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Superpowered Pop, and on superpoweredpop.com. And you can also find our link to all of our YouTube stuff. And the more of you that go to YouTube and you click follow on you make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once you do that, we will grow and blossom and reach more of you. And we just hope that we can get to everybody, including in a galaxy far, far away. We appreciate you, Enrico. Thanks.
Thank you, man. Awesome.